What if the one person who made your heart tremble wasn't the one society expected you to love? What if love didn't respect age, rules, or reason, but simply arrived, like rain on a thirsty earth? Michael was 23, with a gentleness that people often mistook for weakness. His quiet voice, soft eyes, and manner of listening instead of talking made him different from the restless men his age. He wasn't the type to flood social media with noise or drown himself in fleeting pleasures. He was searching, though he couldn't yet define what he was searching for, and then he saw her. Her name was Isabella, 42 years old, a woman of elegance carved by time, not youth. She wasn't the kind of beauty that shouted. She was the kind that lingered, the kind you carried home in your chest after a brief meeting. The first time Michael saw her, she was standing by a window in a quiet cafe, reading a book as though the rest of the world didn't exist. The way her fingers held the pages, the light that caressed her hair, the aura of solitude around her, it was enough to make him forget where he was. Michael had seen many women, but none had ever unsettled him like this. Something about Isabella made him want to know her story. She looked like someone who had lived, loved, and lost, yet still carried herself with dignity. He was drawn to her, not just her beauty, but the mystery in her silence. Michael became a regular at the cafe. He told himself it was the coffee, but his heart knew better. Every morning, Isabella came with her books and her quiet presence. She rarely smiled at anyone, but one day, their eyes met. And in that second, something shifted. "Is this seat taken?" Michael asked, his voice barely louder than the soft jazz playing in the background. She looked at him for a long moment before replying, "No, it isn't." That was how it began, conversations stitched between sips of coffee and the turning of pages. At first, their words were ordinary. Books, the weather, the cafe's playlist. But slowly, they grew deeper. Michael found himself telling her about his dreams, his fears, his uncertainty about life. To his surprise, she listened not with the half-interest people often gave him, but with full attention, as though every word mattered. Isabella too began to open up. She spoke of her past, not all at once, but in fragments. A marriage that had ended years ago, a son studying abroad, nights of loneliness she disguised with books. She laughed softly when she admitted she hadn't believed she would ever enjoy talking to someone so much younger. "But you're different, Michael," she said one evening. "You make me feel seen." And that was the moment he knew his heart wasn't just curious anymore. It was falling. But what happens when love blooms where it shouldn't? What happens when a gentle young man's heart collides with the guarded soul of a woman twice his age? The world doesn't always applaud. Love it often, tears it apart. The more time they spent together, the deeper their connection grew. Michael adored the way Isabella spoke, measured, thoughtful, never rushed. She admired his sincerity, how his eyes didn't wander, how he seemed to drink in her presence as though she were the only person in the room. But with every heartbeat, the unspoken truth pressed heavier between them, their age difference. One evening, as they walked by the river, Michael finally said it. "Do you ever think about it? About us?" She stopped walking. The streetlights painted golden halos around her hair. "Michael, you're 23. I'm 42. Do you realize what that means? People will laugh. They'll call me foolish. They'll call you confused." He stepped closer, his voice trembling but resolute. "Let them call it what they want. I don't care what the world says. When I'm with you, I feel alive. Isn't that what love is supposed to be?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. Instead, her eyes glistened with a mixture of longing and fear. She wanted to believe him, but the weight of years, of society's whispers, of her own insecurities, pressed hard against her chest.
They tried to resist. They told themselves they were only friends, but the heart has a way of betraying reason. There were moments when Michael would brush a strand of hair from her face, and her breath would catch. Moments when she would rest her hand on his, and neither of them would pull away. The world became a fragile glass one touched too much, and it would shatter. And then, one night, it did. It was raining. They had both stayed late in the cafe, talking until the staff politely reminded them of closing time. Michael offered to walk her home. By the time they reached her doorstep, they were drenched, shivering, laughing at the absurdity of it all. She fumbled for her keys, and he held her hand to steady her. Their eyes locked. Time stopped. And without thinking, without planning, Michael leaned in and kissed her. The world exploded into silence. When he pulled back, fear flashed across her face. "Michael, this is wrong." "No," he whispered, his forehead resting against hers. "This feels like the only thing that's right." And in that fragile, trembling moment, Isabella let go of her resistance. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel.
But love is never simple. The more their hearts intertwined, the more the world began to notice. The whispers started at the cafe, among Isabella's friends, even in Michael's circle. People raised eyebrows, exchanged knowing looks, and offered cruel words disguised as concern. "She could be your mother," someone laughed. "She's just lonely, and you're just naive," another said. Each word cut deeper than they admitted. Isabella began to withdraw, afraid she was ruining Michael's life. Michael, in turn, grew desperate, terrified of losing the one person who made him feel whole. "Do you regret us?" he asked one evening, his voice breaking. She looked at him with eyes full of pain. "I regret nothing, Michael, but I fear everything." The storm reached its peak, the day Isabella's ex-husband confronted her. He had heard rumors seen her with a young man. His words were venom. "You're pathetic, Isabella, chasing after someone who could be your son. Do you know what people are saying about you?" That night, Isabella wept. She thought of ending it, of setting Michael free from the burden of her love. But when she looked into his eyes so tender, so unwavering, she realized something profound. Michael didn't see her age. He didn't see her scars. He saw her, and that was enough. "I don't care what they say," she whispered, her voice breaking yet strong. "I choose you, Michael, even if the world never understands."
He took her hands, kissed them gently, and promised, "Then we'll walk through the fire together." Love didn't suddenly become easy. The whispers didn't stop. But Michael and Isabella learned to build their own world, a world where age was just a number, and hearts spoke louder than judgment. Every stolen glance, every whispered word, every night spent in each other's arms became proof that love, true love, doesn't ask for permission. It simply exists. And those storms came. They faced them hand in hand, gentle and strong, fragile yet unbreakable. Because sometimes, love is not about finding someone your age, your type, or your equal in years. Sometimes, love is about finding the one soul that makes you feel alive no matter what the world thinks. And Michael had found his in Isabella.